Somehow I managed to start my live feed before I was ready. I'm putting on my socks. So, as you guys know, I am the night shift knife guy, Crazy Sharp here. We're going to talk about a couple things because, well, I'm bored. So, I was not ready to start the live feed yet. I was trying to do a couple things, but I hit the button by accident. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So I don't know who's here, but if you're here, appreciate you drop a like. I had intended on changing the title before we went live because I was going to talk about tools and such, and I had not cleaned off my workbench yet. So as you guys can see, it's a mess. So yeah, we're going to talk about a couple things. I wanted to talk about tools because there's a lot of people that are like, should I take my knives apart? Should I disassemble my knives? And there's no real good answer for that. I disassemble knives all the time. I take knives apart mainly because I like to tinker with things, and so I take my knives apart a lot. But there's some hazards to it, and there's some things you're gonna need. And going into it in knowing in advance some of the things that are gonna happen and some of the things, that's a nice thing. There's a lot of people that get knives and they take them apart. And for years, I've had people like, hey man, I took this knife apart and now there's something wrong with it. And there's a lot of people that have sent me knives that they thought they broke that I had to put back together for them because they did it improperly. I've had people take knives apart, lose screws, and send things back with the incorrect screws. I had one come with wood screws in it, and I was like, bro, it's a very expensive knife to have taken apart and tinkered about with. So with the workbench being in a state of disarray, it's horrible. It's a mess. There's stuff everywhere. I can put some of this stuff away. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. And I've got lights above the workbench because that's where I film. So the big thing about if you take knives apart is remembering that, especially when you're talking about like custom knives or mid-tech knives, some of those things, some of those parts are modified at the shop. I have a specific knife in mind that I'm going to tell you about that I took apart one time. Luckily, I was at the shop where the knife was made when I did it, so when I ran into problems, I simply deferred to the maker, and I was like, hey, what's going on here? And he's like, oh, that was at a time where we weren't as good at doing some things as we are now. He's like, you're going to find that specific screws are going to, you're going to have to remember where they came from. But the big thing was just swapped out. Do you like carry fixed blade or folding knife? I carry a knife, several knives every day. I review knives, so therefore a lot of times you'll see a pocket drop from me where it's like more knives than most people would normally carry, but that's because you can't just only carry one knife if you're testing a bunch of knives. Like I've got 3,000 videos up on this channel at this point. So that's a lot of knives. So that's a lot of knives to get through. And if I only carried one knife a day, it would make it difficult. It's getting harder. That's why you're seeing less videos come up on the channel. Working full time again now, it gets harder to be able to review as many knives because I really don't have the, what I do for work is not going to be something where I really need a knife. So I'm not doing any tasks where I would be testing. But yeah, I do carry a knife every day. As a matter of fact, I'm still in my pajamas and I have I had two knives on me. I took them out of my pocket. I had this Microtech Amphibian and I had this, which is the Kaiser Clairvoyant. But yeah, I do. I carry a knife every day. Sorry about the weird lighting. The TV is on in the background here in the studio. Hopefully Lacey shows up. EDC and Lace is a young lady that has an Instagram page, but there's a sales page that's associated with it. And if you guys do any knife sharpening, I recommend her strop compound. She does a really good job with it. I just loaded my strops with the 9 micron. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm trying to get some stuff out of the way here so that we can look down. But taking knives apart, there's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of small parts in a knife, and sometimes there's more parts than you think. So I carry the Marine Raider by M3 Tactical. Well, I'm not going to say anything. M3 Tactical is a bullshit company that leading people said they were making American-made products and was having Best Tech make all their, which is why you can't find them on the market anymore. I'm not gonna lie, I saw some of their knives, they seem nice, and I was like, wow, that's pretty good for a new company. My wife throws a fit when I leave that bathroom light on. I was like, that's pretty good for a new company to come out and really hit the blocks with such refined knives, and then come to find out they were having their stuff made in China by Best Tech, which there's nothing wrong with that. But that's why you don't see them have a presence online anymore. We found out about that. I got a bunch of documents from some people, emails and such, designs and things like that from them to Best Tech. Guys, I'm sorry. I did not mean to go live. I hit the button early and I didn't get stuff set up real well. But I think we're at a point where I ate supper here last night, and so there's a mess. Allow me to grab my housekeeping tool and clean off my workbench. Doesn't work real well, but that was kind of a sad situation. I met those guys and stuff like that, and they seemed like good guys, and I was really hoping that they were going to be that new American-made company that was coming to the forefront. Oh, missed some. I had a bacon wrap burrito for supper last night. No, I'm sorry. That's what I had for supper this morning. I forget I work night. Yeah, the guy. I think we're talking about the M3 Tactical Tech. Those guys, I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same group of guys. But here we are. Now we're back to what I wanted to talk about. Let me turn this light on and turn that light off. And that's going to make this experience a little bit better for everybody. Yeah, exactly. I did a video about it. Super Steel Steve, if you follow him, he talks about it. I think Alex Steingraber talked about it as well. Alex Steingraber talked about it the most. And Alex, if you know Alex is a stand-up dude. He's not going to lie about that. He doesn't, like people are like, oh, you're just upset because they're going to be your competition. He goes, we make different knives, man. It's not competition. Pressure is a choice. And Alex is just a great dude. And yeah, he brought it to the forefront that they were lying. And they absolutely were. And that's why you can't find them anymore. I did a video about it. I've got emails from him. Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, and that's why their business is basically done. And he did tour videos and stuff of the shop, and I was like, there's no way you're making those knives in that shop. There's no way you're making those knives in that shop. He tried to do it, but at any rate, they are still selling. Well, then I'm telling you, they ruined their reputation. There were so many people. Go find Alex Steingraber on Instagram and see if you can go back and find his stuff. I'm here to tell you, I've seen emails directly from Best Tech to an individual that the reason I can't put it out on the internet, this individual posed as Kevin and got direct correspondence from Best Tech with designs and everything that knives that they were selling as American made. So if you're friends with Kevin, that's fine. But I'm telling you right now, dude was blowing smoke. So there's enough proof that I can honestly say that dude was fucking lying. Yeah, he definitely. So at any rate, knives are an interesting thing when you get to looking at how they're put together and things like that, because there's a lot of different locks. Like that's a button lock, that's a compression lock. This one's a frame lock, but it's a nested frame lock because it's got the scales on the outside. Here's another button lock. This is basically an axis lock. I've got another axis lock right here. So each one of these knives comes apart differently. So that's one of the things you got to keep in mind. Each one of these is going to have its own individual little intricacies when you take that knife apart. This is a difficult knife to get apart and put back together because there's a lot of parts. You got your bearings and you've got your actual lock mechanism and getting things positioned, especially if you notice my hands shake. I have nerve damage in my hands, so for me, it's not as easy to take apart and put together as it used to be. But it is fun still to tinker and take things apart. So when you're taking knives apart, the first thing you want to look at is knowing what's inside your knife. What are you going to encounter? Because all of these knives here run on bearings, right? All these knives have bearings. So you're not worrying about what's... No, I'm in California. You're not worried about what's inside coming apart, but there are some knives that come with IKBS, and IKBS is a bearing system, but the bearings aren't in a race. I could get my tripod out for this, I suppose. Let's see. Let me see if I can hook my tripod up here, and then you guys are going to get some weird audio if I do this. This is going to be difficult. Hang on. I'll put you down like this, and you look up my nose while I do this. So IKBS is a system that they had used for a while, which was bearings inside the knife, but they weren't captured bearings. So they weren't captured bearings. They were basically bearings that were in your knife that were squeezed in between the blade and everything. And it allowed for knives that were smaller, that it would be kind of difficult to have a bearing race in, to have a bearing in. And it was kind of the industry standard for a while. But I'm going to tell you right now, one of the things that then causes is you'll take one of those knives apart and not really know ahead of time, and then all your bearings fall out and they go everywhere. And they're not like they're steel bearings. You can't even pick them up with a magnet. They are little ceramic. They're just little ceramic balls inside your knife. IKBS was really smooth, and very, very rarely did you ever have to do anything to them, but you did occasionally have to lubricate that knife, and they used grease. So trying to get grease in that, I've never done this one-handed before. I've never set my tripod and everything up one-handed before, and it's causing some minor issues here. So hopefully we're not going to lose audio, because I do have to move this cord. I'm keeping an eye on it to see. Oops, oopsie poopsie. I'm trying to keep an eye on it to make sure that I'm not screwing up our audio. And I have to get this cord in here just right. Mount you guys in the tripod. Around. And there we go. So maybe I can actually bring you guys down a little bit, and I'm going to try and line you up a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. And there we go. Now we've got the audio set, and I can put this battery bank, take it out of my pocket. Now I can move around a little bit. So, like I said, knowing what's inside your knife is the first thing. Compression locks come apart differently than these. If you know that you're working on a knife with bearings that are in races, it's simply there's a bearing race and there's some washers and stuff like that. But the big thing is knowing the right type of tools to have. This knife, actually, if I can find my reading glasses, it make my life a lot more easy to be able to see that I'm showing you guys stuff that's in focus. So I figure out where I put those. It's a mess in here. On my days off, I typically film, and I haven't. I've just been goofing off for the last couple days because, well, I just wanted some time off. Is that a triad lock on the green one, second from the right? No, there's not a triad lock up here. This is a frame lock. It's a nested frame lock. That's another one. Yeah, you mentioned one. That's a good point. Let me get a triad lock out for you. I have a couple triad locks. The smallest knife to have a triad lock, which is the mini tough late, and then the tough late. So these are a modified back lock. These come apart completely differently. I hate taking apart triad locks. They're a pain. And if you guys are here, please drop a like. But so when you take these knives apart, it's a really good idea to know what's inside. So you walk into it but that's not what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about some of the tools you're going to need. So to take these knives apart, you want to make sure you have the right tools. Now, a lot of people would glance at that back in the day and be like, oh, it's an Allen. Made that mistake on a cold steel knife one time. I thought it was Allen keys. It was not. It was Torx, and I had to get new screws from cold steel. So knowing that you're going to need specific tools, it's a good idea to invest in some and have multiples, because when you get into, I don't know what I just dropped. I dropped something on the floor down here underneath the workbench, and it was probably something important. Yeah, I can see it. I see it. It's a little Allen wrench. So these are bit drivers. And the nice thing about having a few bit drivers is then you can put different size bits in them. I have several, actually, because you have different knife sizes. So it's nice to be able to have a T8. I believe that's a T8. There's a T. It says T6, but both ends of this say T6. It's a T8. It's misprinted. This is a T8. That is another T8, and I believe that's a T8. T8 is the most common, but the nice thing about these is I can flip this, and now I have a T6. So on this knife, the screws for this are T6. The body screws are T8, and then this was a T15. So this, I would leave this as a T8. So you want to make sure that you have your stuff. So I've built this. This has got a bunch of Torx. These are security Torx. They come in handy for a lot of stuff too, especially if you have a PS4 that you have to clean. These security Torx are nice. So you can have the multiple bit sizes. So for that knife, I would need all 3 bit drivers, with this being the pivot screw, the T15. So you have all of those available. You also have some knives that are going to have proprietary hardware. Let me see if I can find it. This knife right here is a Microtech, and it uses proprietary hardware. Well, if I were to come over here to my work area and look closely, I have got a set of tools for that. I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't, like I said, I was not ready to go live when I did that. This is all tools. This is all tools and things for knives. This is a Microtech, but you can see down in here, see that right there? There's a bit for that right here. So proprietary tools for proprietary tooling. So I used to do a lot of modification of knives and things like that. So I have literally hundreds of dollars worth of tools here. But this is the basic stuff you need. You just need to make sure that you know what tools you have for the job. I also recommend something magnetic, because like I take knives apart here on this maintenance mat. This, I'll take you back out of the tripod. I don't need it anymore. We're done. These little wells here are all magnetic. So you've got 4 spots. So if you've got multiple size screws and things like that, it comes in handy because you can you can, well, I don't need my reading glasses now. You can then take those parts and segregate them. Remember me saying like knowing what you're going to take apart. I have a knife. I'm done with my tripod. I just wanted to be able to show you guys that with my hands free. I have a knife here that I took apart one time. And luckily, like I said, I was at the shop where the maker made them. I hate the Spyderco smock. I've had several come in. Evan Murphy, I've got 3,000 videos up on this channel. If you go back and look at my past catalog, sorry guys, I just woke up. I am the Night Shift Knife Guy. Literally thousands of knives on this channel. I've had the smock on twice. I hate the smock. I don't like the lock on the smock. I think it's a ridiculous looking knife. I think it's way more expensive than it should be. And I think that is, as a matter of fact, I did a video not too long ago about the smock, and I believe I called it, like, it was like Spyderco. Why? Why would you do this? Or something like that. So this is we'll do this from above. This is a Fair & Forge Knife Works original Fortis. These were done in their shop. They were done mid-tech style. Elliot and Chris did all of the work on these. So all the holes that were drilled, everything was drilled by them. Now, they did do they sent this out for milling. The blades were sent out for water jet and things like that. But all the assembly and everything was done. That was all done through American shops. Elliot made pocket clip. He did all of the fit up, and then the blade finish on this was a specific blade finish that cannot be duplicated because the place that did it here in California no longer exists. So this is a really special knife, but the problem I had was I wanted to make it a little bit more special. If you see, I did a black ceramic coating in the logo and in here because this knife was going in a case. It wasn't going to get carried anymore. As you can see, no real carry marks on this. I refinished this knife just specifically to put it in my case because this knife was a gift from a really, really good friend, dear friend of mine. And so I wanted this to just stay like this. And since you can't duplicate the blade finish, I didn't want to scratch it. So this is one of the few true safe queens I have. It literally lives in this case and never comes out unless I'm pulling it out for something like this. But when I took this apart, because I wanted to do black ceramic on all the hardware, with the exception of the one-sided pivot, these screws were all different lengths and different, like, they just, like, if you took this screw and put it in this hole, it wouldn't work. And so when I got ready to put this back together, I had to get with Elliot. So the solution was we just swapped out the screws. He had other screws for it. And I'm going to swap them out again for full titanium screws. But this knife was very specific. And when I got it put back together, we couldn't get the centering right. So Elliot took this apart and put it back together for me. And it's just a beautiful knife. I love it. I did all the work on this. I got it. It was a totally different knife than this, with the exception of the blade. And this knife, there was only 100 of in this milling pattern, and there was only 10 of them that had this blade finish. And this blade finish is really, really unique. You can see the grain structure of the steel inside that finish. So you remember, what color was this when you first gave it to me, Nico? That's the Hobbit. This is the guy that gave this. Was it bare titanium or was it a different color? Because when I refinished it just to have it go in the safe and did the black ceramic, I had all those problems. Elliot had to help me put this back together because all the screws were different lengths. Do you remember if this was a different color or yeah, I think you're right. I think it was blue. And then I just refinished it down to bare titanium. That's the Hobbit. That's the guy that gave me the knife. But taking knives apart can be interesting. You find things in there. There are some knives that when you take them apart, it's absolutely an Easter egg hunt. There's a couple companies that do that. Most notably, Grimsmo. John Grimm, I'm sorry, like I said, I'm sorry, guys, if this is an ill-prepared. I had everything set up, and when I went to pick my phone up, I hit the start button, and all I was doing, I was getting ready to test the microphones and stuff. Yeah, they don't want to go back together again. But there's a lot of different places that have different bits and things like that. I will tell you, everybody loves the Weehaw stuff, and I've had nothing but problems with the Weehaw bits and things like that. Tactical pocket lint. There are some knives that just get dirty fast. This one is a lint magnet because it's got so many openings on it. It's got that big opening there. It's got an opening there. It's all open in here. And so what I do is, and then it's got all these areas inside that have been milled out. And I'm sorry, I don't have great lighting up. This is just a live feed. It's just for us to kind of talk. I take this in the shower with me. I have a little shelf in the corner of my shower that is that I can set this on, and then I just rinse it out in the shower and get all the pocket lint out. Because if you're using the proper lubricant, which that's another thing, take a knife apart, you got to use lubricant. I don't know. I have had better. I've had better experiences with the Fellows stuff that you get. I think they're just harder. They last longer. They're more precise on their sizing for the torques. Sorry, keep interrupting. M3 is stating they made a knife called the Mongoose for the Australian Marines. Would that be possible? At this point, I don't believe a word that guy says. So Kevin over at M3 Tactical Tech lied to everyone. He was lying about things that they were doing. He was lying about where the knives were made, so it would not surprise me if he's lying about that. I typically don't engage in drama. I typically don't engage in the drama, but that was one that, like, he was misleading. The J.A. Hoback thing, too, where he was having knives made, and he just threw a lie of omission. But I don't want to talk about that. So yeah, I'm not trying to talk. I'm not trying to talk about all that. But the fact is, like, that was a big thing. And Alex Steingraber really brought it to the forefront. This is the problem when we start doing this on the shorts. People are just stupid. Stupid people do stupid people things. So at any rate, but yeah, when you take your knives apart, you can run into you run into a lot of stuff. I will tell you, there are some other tools that are nice to have around. I have a couple of them here that are close because I took one of them out of my pocket. Another thing, yeah, I'm honest. Yeah, and I do honest reviews. I've got so many knives, literally thousands and thousands of dollars worth of knives here. A pry bar. It doesn't seem like something that most people carry in a pocket. This stays in my pocket most days because there's so many things you're going to find yourself needing this for. This one's in steel, but I have one on my workbench that my friend Nathan made that is called the Enigma. And it's a nice one to have. It's got a little pair of tweezers on it. I don't use the tweezers as much. But it's made out of titanium. So you're not going to, and the other thing is it's a lot skinnier than the other one. You can see this gets used a lot. This gets used a lot. Hey, what's up, Lace? So this Enigma is nice because when I need to pry, because sometimes you'll get these knives apart, even you take all the screws out, it's such a tight fit on the hardware that you have to kind of put some pressure on something. So this one's nice because with it being titanium, it's not going to scratch things anywhere near as easily as some of the others. And this gets used all the time. And then if you need to pick small stuff up, you've got a pair of tweezers. I do not like using tweezers for stuff. As a matter of fact, guys, at one point as a knife maker, I was a knife maker supporter of, I got that from knife rights. I was a knife maker supporter. I donated knives. I donated a couple of knives to knife rights, and that's was what I recommend instead of tweezers, because these work so much better, are forceps. I have some hooked ones. I have some fat ones. Sharpening stones? Oh, you want to talk about sharpening stones? So sharpening stones. I recommend these Shapton Pro series. Is how they're sold at a lot of places. These Shaptons are great. I have a collection of them. I got a 1,000, 5,000, 8,000, 2 12,000s. If you want something that's going to that you can use on any steel, a ceramic is good and it's going to give finish, but a ceramic is going to be a lot slicker. You can see how fine that is. It's going to be a lot harder to maintain your angle. Lace, I just reloaded both these. Oh, guys, I was talking about how loaded Lace's strop compound is. Strop compound much? I'm going to tell you, this stuff, it's $20. It's not great, but it's also not horrible. That's what this strop is loaded with. This is a 9-micron paste. It's a lot better for polishing. You want to talk about a heavily loaded strop compound. Can you see that? I loaded this. That's not an optical illusion. I loaded this with Lace's compound. I gave it 3 sprays. Can you see the diamond that has been now loaded on that strop? And the same with this one. Let me get the light right so you can see it. You can just see it looks like it's been frosted. This one you can see a lot better because I haven't used this one yet. I used the other one. Look at how that diamond just reflects the light. That's a heavily loaded strop. That's a heavily loaded strop compound. Like that is, let's see here. Look how much diamond is in the bottom of the bottle. So yeah, I would say it depends. Diamond, there's a lot of really good diamond stones out there. I would shop around. You know who has some really good recommendations up on their channel? Because I haven't been sharpening much. I got a lot of nerve damage in my arm, and so I just can't sharpen. That's why I send people Lace's direction, EDC and Lace. I send them her direction for sharpening now because I trust her to give my customers that I had the same level of attention that I was giving, and so that's why I send people her direction now. So I haven't gotten into some of the newer stones that are out there, but the a tie. Well, that's technically a clamshell, so that's tie. There you go. There's a tie. There's a CF tie CF. I don't know where you're going with that. So yeah, having enough tools to do it. But I'm going to tell you, when you take a knife apart, you're 9 times out of 10, you're going to run into something you weren't expecting. It happens all the time. And with some minor exceptions, there are some knives that are just built to come apart. Like they are built for you to take apart in maintenance. Is it a blue and gold one? Because that's the last guy I recommended. This knife, look at the anode job I did on that. Can you see that two-tone anode I did? Not to toot my own horn, but there's some things I'm really fucking good at. So fucking beep. This knife is really, really easy to disassemble and take apart and put back together. This knife is one of those ones that I said is an Easter egg hunt, because there are little things that John Grimsmo has put in to his knives. You can't see it because it's dirty. But there's little hidden things in here. There's Grimsmo stuff inside the knife where they did it. Well, hello, sir. Hello to you. There's stuff under the pocket clip. You can see it in there hidden. It's just fun. It's fun to take a knife apart and to see that the maker has done little things. Like the serial number on this knife is on the blade. And I could easily look up the birth date on this. And there's a card in here that tells me when the knife was manufactured. But when you take this knife apart, on the back here, I'm trying to get it so that you guys can actually see it. If you can kind of see there's some writing in there. The date, all the information's on the birth card of the knife is also duplicated inside this. And it's just fun to do, like the brown cortex. The brown cortex has got like hidden stuff inside the knife, and it's just fun when you take a knife apart and a maker has went to that level of making it fun. Purple and silver, I don't know. I've sent so many people. I'm in the Norseman buyers group thing. They added me because people were asking about sharpening and anodizing and things, and I had been doing it. One of the guys that runs it knows me. So there was a bunch of people, and I recommended you on there as well. Why is this not charging? We have got a problem. There we go. There we go. There we go. My phone is like, I was like, why is my phone telling me that it's going to shut down because the battery's dead? Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know whose that would be. That didn't screw up the audio when I turned the power back on, right? I was like, why is my phone's like, hey, we're going to shut down. I'm like, no, we're not. So, but yeah, there's always something that either you find inside a knife or something that happens when you take a knife apart. Lace can tell you, Nico can tell you, so many things happen when you take a knife apart, especially if you're doing something complex. Like I used to refinish knives and do ano and ceramic coatings, as you guys saw, and completely change the color of the knife, sometimes change the profile of the knife. And sometimes that takes a long time. It takes hours, if not days sometimes. And you'll take your parts and you'll put them, you think you've got them all separated and hit and put away to a plate where you're not going to lose them. And then you get ready to put the knife together and you're like, there's a spring missing. You're like, I took this knife apart a day ago. And then you're like, you're trying to remember where you took it apart. And then you're like, where's that spring? And so you're over at the workbench where you took it apart and you're just hoping that it didn't get moved. And luckily, most of the time what happens is it rolls across the workbench under a drill press and you get your flashlight and you're like, oh, there it is. Or you drop a screw on a concrete floor. Least favorite game in the shop. Least favorite game in the shop is where'd that screw go? Because it doesn't matter. Like you'll drop it, and Nico and me and Chris and Elliot and all the guys that we would be up at Fair and Forge and we'd be working on knives and modifying knives and stuff. You instinctively learn to follow where the screw went, and if it hits the concrete, a lot of times you're okay. But it never hits the concrete. It hits the toe of your boot, and it accelerates to twice the speed of sound so fast you can't follow it, and you're like, oh, now I have no idea where it went. Especially if you're wearing a pair of boots with like steel toes. Like nobody move. Nobody move. Everybody grabs their flashlights. They're on the floor. If you're working on, if we were at Fair and Forge Knife Works and we were working on a Fair and Forge knife, it's not a big deal. All the parts that you need for that knife are in that shop. But if you're in Fair and Forge Knife Works and you're working on, say, a Sharp by Design Mini Typhoon, like Nico says, then you're going to really need to find that part. I found something earlier today when I was looking for something else that I forgot that I had kept and maintained all these years. I have a pivot screw that's still in its bag that I bought from Steve Kelly. So I took apart a Sharp by Design. It wasn't a mini Typhoon. I took a Sharp by Design knife apart. And when I put it back together, there was a serious issue with the pivot. And that issue was, as I was tightening the pivot down, the head broke off the screw. Well, now I've got a ruined pivot, right? I got a hold of Brian Nadeau, and he goes, I don't have any pivots. And he's like, Steve Kelly makes my pivots. So Steve Kelly makes his pivots, and I was like, okay. And I had to reach out to Steve, and Steve was like, I'm not only making one. And I was like, fuck. I was like, what's the minimum you'll make? He's like, I'll make you 5. And if you've ever bought, people don't know this, hardware for knives, stupid expensive, like ridiculously expensive. 5 pivots cost me almost $100 because he had to make a short run. He had to make a small run, and he had to I had to pay like an additional price. It was expensive. Yeah. Yeah, it's never fun when your parts for your knife just go taken off. I'm gonna tell you guys something that might almost be sacrilegious. I'm drinking instant coffee. I don't know when it happened, but some companies have started making instant coffee that is honestly not that bad. What did Yoda say when he saw himself in 4K? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm that okay. That that actually is funny. Just got off a 10-hour shift. I worked a I worked a 12 night before last. Got off at 11, and then it was Mother's Day morning, and so I got off at 11, and we went to Black Angus with my wife because that's where she wanted to go for her Mother's Day lunch. There wasn't a lot of options, to tell you the truth. But I am not having instant coffee this time. I believe I'm going to have something that's called Almond Afterlife. This is not the bag it came in, but the bag it came in ripped, and so I put it in a sous vide bag so that I could pull the air out of it. I'm gonna try and do this one-handed. No, I'm not. My wife has done this again. She has put my coffee scoop, the proper scoop for this, she has moved it and put it where it doesn't belong. Kind of off topic, does piano wire work for assisted piano wire is a little more flexible than you'd want. You would want something more like, you might want something that's more of a heavier gauge steel. I mean, you might on a thicker, but piano wires usually are kind of wound. I don't know. I've never tried it. You'd have to find the right size. It might, but then again, assisted is garbage. Why would you want to make a knife assisted? I just turned those lights off so they weren't in your face. That's kind of like poo-poo. Why would you? I hate assisted opening knives. I hate them. I'm like, just, you know what assisted opening knives are for? They're for companies that can't make a smooth knife. That's been my assertion for years, is that a company can't make a smooth action on a knife to make it a flipper, so therefore they make it assisted opening so it feels smooth. I don't like assisted opening. I don't think it really gets you anywhere. I think it was a selling point at one time. They called it the Ken Onion Speed Safe over at Kershaw and ZT. And I had a ZT03 that I owned because a ZT0300 BK. And the only reason I owned it was because a guy had sent it with me for sharpening, and when I got home, I dropped it, and it hit the fucking flipper tab, and it snapped open, and it broke the tip off the blade, and that's not the only one that happened to. It happened to a Kershaw Blur that I owned a few years earlier. My daughter grabbed my knife that was sitting on the coffee table, and she dropped it, and it landed, and it snapped open. Even though it didn't have a thumb stud, even though it was thumb stud, it snapped open, and the blade hit the tile floor and broke off. And so I don't know why they called it speed safe. If anything, it was speed danger. I had the Blur Tonto, and it's exactly what happened. Thing hit the ground, it snapped open because it had an assisted opening, and it fucking snapped open and broke the tip off of it. Very rarely are you going to have a flipper knife. That's not true. It has happened. It's just life. There is life this time of day. A really good flipper is every bit as, that's not assisted. That doesn't have a spring in it. I will show you guys something really cool. I like to show you guys this as often as I can. This is a Switchblade. Doesn't look like a Switchblade. This is a Switchblade. This is a very, very smooth, full custom knife. It's got Damascus pivots, but the really cool thing about it, it's a Switchblade. Like, that is just genius. Do I lube the pivot? I lube the pivot and the bearings. When you're lubing a knife, the bearings are already going to be, yeah, it's discing. When you lube a knife, when you take your knife apart and you lube it, the best thing to use that I found, and this is a shout out to, I don't make any money on the sale of these items. I don't have an affiliate link even with them. But the KPL. The KPL is the best stuff. The KPL is the best stuff. The heavy and the regular. The KPL heavy and the regular are about the best stuff. For my OTFs, I do use the ultralight. I've done videos on how to do this. When you take a knife apart, guys, there's 42 of you here and only 9 likes. That's ridiculous. Please drop a like if you're watching. When you put your lubricant on, I don't like graphite dry lube. It has a tendency to get, like, if it gets in an environment where it gets oil, it gets gummy. I don't like it. I don't like graphite dry lube. It's on locks, it's good, but at any rate, when you put your lubricant on, so I put the knife together and I put the pivot in and I put one set of bearings in. Then you put a little bit of oil, like 1 drop on the bearings, like it's capillary action, it's gonna work its way around. But the important part is that you run some lubricant up the pivot from the bearings up, and then put your blade on, and then put your other set of bearings, and then if there's a washer, and then you put a drop on the bearings on the top, and then you put it together. Good for you. Never go dry. It's like having a carpet burn. Just think about that. So that lubricates the actual surface that the blade is going to ride on. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, get the skiff bearings. They've got more stability. That's bullshit. It doesn't matter what your bearings are sitting in, because that's not touching. The pressure that is on that knife is distributed on the bearings, the points. The bearings are touching. That's your bearing surface. Whatever your bearing race is made of, it does not make a fucking difference at all. The bearings are going to be like, oh, it gives you more stability because the skiff bearings are set in brass. Bullshit. You could put those in cardboard if you could find a way to keep the cardboard from falling apart. IKBS didn't even have a race, and they were fine. You remember we were talking about that. Any metal that moves. So lubing that pivot is a good idea. Now, I'm going to say something, and the Livewire OTFs, no. I want to get out to PVK Vegas. I know those guys, and I know those guys personally. I'm friends with the guys from PVK, and I've never set foot in their store. I feel bad. Nico and I have been to Vegas. Nico, how many times have we been to Vegas for knife shows? What, 4? Never set foot in their store. But the fact is, they're usually at the show, so I get to see them anyway. Like, if I was going to PVK Vegas, I'm not buying anything. Just going to talk to those guys. And the fact is, they're usually at the show, so I get to see them anyway, so it's not a big deal. I talked with Matt 2 or 3 months ago. I think it's been like 2 or 3 months ago. I was talking to Matt about that knife. I had a problem with that knife. I took it apart, and he walked me through the problem I had with that knife. And it was my own fault. It's something I did. But there's nothing wrong with that knife. Matt's work is just chef's kiss. And that should tell you something, because I hate when people do the whole chef's kiss thing. But in all honesty, I took the knife apart because I had a problem, and then got the problem that I had fixed, and then ran into the problem that I couldn't get that fucking thing back together. Oh, nice. So, Warncliffe versus Clip Point, they have their place. And that's why, like, when I had a guy that was on here yesterday when I did the live feed, he said, all you need is a box cutter. And I was like, well, I disagree. I'm looking for my really fancy box cutter, which is like a Warncliffe. I love a Warncliffe. This is great. This gets used a lot, as you can see. However, there's stuff I can't do with this. There's stuff I can't do with a Warncliffe. Something like this bridges the gap. Clip point is attractive, but a clip point is basically a drop point with a fancy swoop-de-swoop. There's a lot of stuff that you can't do with that knife, and you need something that has some belly on it. Most notably would be processing small game. You're not going to do that with a Warncliffe. You can do some things with it. You can do some things with it, but you can't do everything with it. And if you haven't dropped a like, I know that, like, I said it before, but there's a handful of you here. People rotate in and out. There are knives that absolutely are going to suit better for those things. This has got a nice flat and a belly. So you can get up on this and cut around skin and animal without punching through the skin. If you're wanting to keep the skins, you're not going to punch a gut when you're pulling out the gut. It's just basically a better knife for that purpose. What's the best fixed blade in your opinion? Well, in my humble opinion, there's a knife that was designed by this guy, and he was looking for a perfect small fixed blade, and what he came up with was a design that gives you a lot of capabilities that also is in a small package. I'm playing. I designed this. The best fixed, I don't know. It just depends. See, that's something, when you say that, like, there is no one best thing. You know what I mean? There is no one best thing, because it was a joke. there's no, it depends on what you're doing. If you're going to be bushcrafting, this is a bushcraft knife. This is something that would suit you really well. So it just depends. It just depends on what you're doing. This is a knife that my father made. This is a really, really good outdoor knife. It's a carbon steel. My dad, these were kits. Survival knife, it depends. Okay. Once again, it depends on the survival situation. If you're going to be rafting and need a knife for that kind of thing, that might be the direction you're going to go. But we do have the best knife ever. The best knife ever for survival. We have the Rucco survival knife. Plastic handle, nice and light. It's got your survival kit in it. It's got a compass that, in all honesty, does point north. It is absolutely pointing north. That is north. This thing is garbage. I'm just kidding. This is trash. I bought this as a joke. I bought that as a joke because I saw it when I filmed another video. Do I use knives for self-defense? I have knives that are purpose-built for self-defense, and I do carry a knife for self-defense. I took martial arts for a long time. I have specific knives that I carry. This is a purpose-built self-defense knife. It comes out of your pocket with a wave feature. It's got a ring. You get your thumb. This is a folding pical. This is a purpose-built self-defense folder. Yes, I carry this for self-defense. I carry this for specific purpose. I don't carry it to work. I don't need this at work, but I do carry it if I'm going somewhere with my daughter, if I'm going somewhere with my daughter and my wife, so that I have this in my pocket, because you guys see what's going on in the world. I don't have to say it. That's not a political statement. You just see that they say crime rates are down, but then we see so much that contradicts that. But you don't trust the wave feature anymore? I'll tell you what, I don't like the wave feature, right? This knife has the best wave feature ever. I have not had this fail. I've practiced with this a lot. This does it in any pants. This thing is absolutely, I haven't either. I've never been a fan of the wave feature. I honestly haven't. You can ask anybody that knows me. I've said it for years. I'm going to have to, you guys, I've got a cord issue. I've got to unplug the microphone for just a second. Give me just a moment. We should be back. Fixed blade. Let's see here. Never liked the wave. I have a similar one. Yeah, that is somebody said it on here. Yes, that is a Pinkerton. I've met, see, here's the thing. I like Ernie. I just hate Ernie's knives. Ernie likes me. Okay, here is ALGD. What is? I'm trying to see. Like, somebody came in and was like, "It's ALGD. Buy." I don't know. At any rate, fixed blade's always the way to go. Fixed blade's always going to be the way to go. Okay, but I didn't see them on here. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. I do prefer a fixed blade. I do prefer a fixed blade over anything. That's always going to be the way to go. I have a fixed blade I carry all the time. But anyway, I was talking about Ernie. Nico can tell you, I like Ernie. And I talk to Ernie, and Ernie likes me. It's just, and Nico can tell you, like, I talk about Ernie's knives all the time, right? Ernie knows this, but the thing is, everybody else at Ernie's table knows it too. And Ernie invites me to come to his shop. Nico knows this. He invites me to come to his shop every time that I see him. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are here. And he's like, no, we're up here now. And I'm like, they're even closer now than they used to be. And he keeps trying to, and he's like, hey, do you want to try the whiskey and all that? And so Ernie likes me. No one else at Ernie's table likes me. Yeah, I drink with Ernie at every knife show. Everyone else, and Ernie knows that I talk shit about his knives. He's told me. He agreed with me on some things that I said. Everybody else at Ernie's booth fucking can't stand me. They stink eye me. I'm going to show you guys something I discovered about this knife that I didn't know. We're going to have to turn, I'm going to have to get this ready to show you. Where'd I put my torch? Yeah, Ernie wants me to drink with him. Ernie's a great dude. He really, really is. And I just think that, like, he's got stuff that he needs to address. And he knows that he's got stuff he needs to address in his knives. We're gonna turn this light off for a second. I had something. Yeah, that was a UV light. So I've had this knife for a while. And having a UV light is actually pretty cool. I've had this knife for a while, right? Never realized that knife glowed in the dark. What else we got on here that might glow in the dark? What is that? Oh, yeah. I forgot that the eyes on that glow in the dark. That is here, I'll turn the light on so you can see what it is. That is a lanyard bead that is meant to look like an octopus. You see it? And its eyes glow. I forgot about that. But yeah, that is a CRKT. It's a minimalist. It was a gift. And I've had it for a little over a year. Never realized that thing glows. And it glows. Let's get these lights back on. You guys don't want to be in a dark room with me. 34 people, 19 likes. Let's get that like number up a little bit. Yeah, I don't dislike this minimalist as much as I used to. It's still ugly. It's got some serious issues, but this is not a bad little neck knife. I've grown to like it a little more than I used to. So I farted. That was a big one. I had Taco Bell. So working nights, you guys ready for this? Working nights, like I eat supper like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. But this morning I went and picked my buddy Tino up at, so I had a bunch of stuff. I had to do a bunch of stuff at the VA and stuff like that. And then I got done and I had to go to Walmart because there's stuff I wanted to get, that I needed. And I got some stuff. And so on my way home, I was talking to my buddy Tino and he was like, yeah, I got to do this. And I was like, well, how about I meet you there? He had to drop his car off at the garage. And I was like, well, he's like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to take a Uber home. And I was like, bro, I'm like in the area. How about I drop this stuff off at my house? I come pick you up. So I didn't get done like hanging out with him till like 11 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm hungry and I want to eat something and I want to go to bed. I went to Taco Bell, and I'm not gonna lie, I got into the jazz cabbage a little bit before I went to Taco Bell, and I was like, I want Taco Bell. So I went in the lobby and I ordered like $18 worth of Taco Bell. And like when I walked in, the guy looked at me and he was like getting ready to hand me the key to the bathroom. Like, oh, here's the key to the bathroom. I was like, nah, I'm gonna order food. And he was like looking at me like at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I placed my order. And the lady next to me heard what I ordered and looked at me. And I was like, in my head, I was like, shut the fuck up. You're here too. Shut up, bitch. You are here too. And so I got my food and the guy looked at me like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, I looked at him, I was like, I work nights. It's my supper time. I was like, I'm going to eat this. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to go to bed. But the fact, like, it's funny, like, I went in, I placed my order, and people looked at me disapprovingly about, like, I was making a bad life choice. And the fact was, other customers were looking at me like I was making a bad life choice. And I was like, you're fucking here too? What the fuck? So, yeah, jazz cabbage. I started back up with the jazz cabbage, the devil's lettuce. You joined. Joined what? Did you join my membership or you just joined the live feed? Smash that party pack. If we had a Nika's gonna, the Hobbit is gonna have something to say about this. If there was a White Castle's, I would have been there, and I would have gotten a Crave pack. I would have gotten a cardboard briefcase full of poorly. Nico hates White Castle. I took him to White Castle in Vegas, to him and his wife, and they were very disappointed. Like, upset with me. Like, they were upset with me. What is this? Oh, we can let that one out. That can show. That one can show. I'm not gonna lie, working nights, it's definitely it is the Jack in the Box. It is the Jack in the Box fresh food hack. I'm gonna tell you that right now. If you go to Jack in the Box in the morning and order like 8 o'clock in the morning and order like the home style, like their home style grilled, or no, their home style chicken ranch club or whatever it is, it's delicious. But a lot of times you get it and it's soggy. That thing is crispy, and so are your fries. Like the fries, like that, you're gonna get the freshest sandwich and fries. So if you're ordering breakfast food at 10:30 at night on your way to work, they have to make it fresh because no one else is ordering that. If you're ordering like the regular menu at fucking 8 or 9 a.m., they have to make that fresh. So it's just always, it's always funny to me. It's always, did the light just change for everybody or just for me? My phone might be a little bit hot. Guys, I'm gonna, he gave me another like on my daughter's phone. Well, thank you. Like I said, drop a like, guys. It pushes these up. I'm probably gonna get off of here because there's other things I want to do. Mainly, I want to play Fallout 4. But I do want to point out something now that I've made another mess on my workbench. I got this knife, and I did a video about this. This is the Best Techman Good Boy. I had this, and I was kind of saving it for last. I wanted to point. I got this free from Blade HQ. I got this free from Blade HQ, and I was trying to figure out why it was free, and it was free when I ordered this. So, like, it was like if you ordered a certain amount, you got this knife for free. I had a bunch of people tell me that this knife, like the button lock was failing. Is this a normal time? Now that I work nights, yeah, this is my normal. So you're gonna probably see these on. Is it still Monday? Well, it's Tuesday now. You're probably gonna, like, around this time. I'm off Sunday, Monday. Those are my days off, and so this is just gonna be the time that I go live, the night shift knife guy thing. And this is taking the spot of the video that used to be up on Mondays. I'm not going to put up videos on Mondays. It's just going to be Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So, and then I'm going to try and do like Sunday night, Monday night for me into the morning. So at any rate, this knife was free. Oh yeah, you're welcome. I like to try and do these, and the fact is, I do these shorts I was explaining. I do them on the vertical so they show up in a shorts feed because it does bring new people to the channel that might subscribe and then watch my other stuff. And it just feels, this goes back to like the way I used to do Instagram live feeds all the time, and this kind of just brings me back to that, and I kind of miss those days of like when I first started doing YouTube. At any rate, I got this, and a lot of people were saying that the lock was failing. And there was a bunch of people that said the lock failed and stuff like that. I did some pretty good testing on this, and they said that the lock just failed and slipped. I have had zero issues with this. And I really dig this knife a lot. It's Keanu design. It has a very interesting grind where it comes down almost Tonto style. It doesn't have as much of a distal taper as a lot of other knives. I really like it a lot, and I'm going to carry it. But this is the guy that helped me out with the purchase of. I've started doing things. I have enough people that do watch the channel that I'm doing things that other channels have done where they make purchases through another individual. And so someone else bought this knife for me and then sent it to me, and then the other knife came with it. And so when does the blade shake out? Are you talking like if you sling it? You can do it, but it's still pretty, it's a pretty stiff detent still on it. But at any rate, that they sent me that, and I did the full test on that, and I don't have a problem with that knife, really. Here's the thing. So does this one. And it doesn't really bother me on this one as much as it does on some other knives, because that's a very heavy blade on a lock that for most knives, you're going to be able to shake an axis lock out. Even this little guy here. Axis locks have a tendency to do that. Button locks as well. So I'm not typically as opposed to it as I am something like a frame lock. A frame lock should not like shake out like that. It's just something that like I don't think it should. So, but yeah, but this is back to the original Josh 304. Yes, this is basically my. It's almost my lunchtime. It's my lunchtime here in just a few minutes, and so I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna get something to eat. I don't think I'm going anywhere, and then I may do one of these tomorrow in the morning because I'm not going anywhere. My daughter is gonna have the car, but. What was this? God bless you and your family. I know life is tough, but you never lose faith. Yeah, things are much less stressful now that I have a full-time job again. I enjoyed doing the full-time content creator stuff for a while. It kind of was a blessing. I could do anything I wanted. I could take my daughter anytime. I could stop doing what I was doing. Yeah. You never making comments on this channel again. I could do whatever I want to do. I could take my daughter. I look like I wear white hoods at night. Motherfucker, my wife's not white. I don't know what the fuck this is. At any rate, it was a blessing for a while. I could take my daughter to school. I could stop what I was doing and take my daughter somewhere if we wanted to go. I could take a day off in the middle of the week and do whatever I wanted. But the flip side of that is, it was like you never knew what money you were going to make from week to week. Like a video that you might have poured your heart and soul in and you thought was the best video you ever made might not get any views. You might have put a lot of fucking work into editing a video. The Bob Terzuola video that I did, literally 10 hours of editing on that video, an entire day of filming. It was more than 10. There was so much work that went into editing that video, and the filming was an entire day thing, and cutting it down and getting rid of things that didn't need to be in there and editing the audio. That should have been the best video ever. It was a story of Bob Terzuola's life, and the fact that really did piss me off is I sent that to so many other content creators to share, and only a couple of them did. And I was like, guys, this is one of our, these are other knife guys. I was like, this is one of our idols. This is one of the people that we talk about all the time. And you're not going to share that video so that other people can hear his story? It was over an hour long video that I filmed. And there was like 4 or 5 hours of footage that got cut down to an hour without losing anything important. And it really frustrated me. Scab shared it. It's just horrible. It's horrible to put something the dog is snoring. I was doing 60 hours a week between filming and editing and all that stuff. Someone's sleepy. He stayed up with me. He stayed up with me all night last night. And then my wife and daughter kept him up all day. And then my daughter took him on a run, and they went to the dog park. And he is not, my wife kicked him out of the bedroom, and now he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to do anything. I tried to get him to go out. He doesn't even want to go out. So yeah, guys, if you have not dropped a like, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to get off of here. I'm going to get something to eat. It's been, I was only going to do an hour, and I've done an hour and 15. So I will talk to you all later. This is fun. I will do these. I'll try and do these every weekend that I'm off. They might not be long. They might be an hour. They might be 2. Last night's was like 2. But so am I a fan of any of the launch series knives? I don't. Okay. So since people are still drop, I'll answer a couple questions. I'm not hungry yet. That's the thing. I woke up late. I slept in again. So I'll stay with you guys for a few more minutes. I'll finish my coffee. I don't like Kershaw. I don't like Kershaw. I don't like ZT. I've never liked their knives. Their quality seems to be okay. They do have a problem with their lock interface on their frame locks. Like a lot of their locks fail. And when I say spine whack, I'm not talking like what I see. Here's one. I'm 6'3", 230 pounds, and I'm not weak. I can twist the heads off bolts. Nico knows there's shit that I can do that most people go, what the fuck? How did he get that tight? I can do a spine whack test to the point where I can break the knife. That's not a good test. A light tap, yes, that's a good tap. I do have a karambit. Actually, I think it is probably, I would consider the best karambit on the market. I have the Wee Incisor. Before it was a Civivi design. I have this one. It is great. Oh no, I'm gonna make some. I do believe I'm gonna do some roasted chicken thighs and potatoes. That'll be what I eat later. I'm gonna eat a snack now, and then I'm getting back to where I only eat once a day. It's not like the intermittent fasting. I'm not trying to do it to lose weight or anything. I just usually feel better if I if I only eat once a day. I just don't feel good when I eat too much. But at any rate, fuck, I forget what was I talking about before I got on the karambit thing. Help me out, guys. What was I talking about before I got on the karambit thing? Oh shit. See? I don't remember. Oh, yeah, spine whack. So spine whack's not a good test because, well, one, there's a word I want to use. There's a word I want to use about frame locks, but I'm not allowed to use it. There's a word I want to use about it, and I don't think YouTube likes that word, but it starts with an R and ends with tarded. That is the dumbest test. One, you're gonna if it's a button lock, the likelihood of damaging a button lock with a spine whack is way higher. Way higher. So a spine whack, the likelihood of damaging a button lock with a spine whack is way higher than other knives. Axis locks are always going to perform really well with a spine whack. Frame locks, you're going to see, but the problem is like people hit it too hard. And what happens is when they hit it that hard, they induce shock. They actually damage the lock bar interface, the lock interface, and things like that. And the fact is, I don't know anyone that uses their knife in a fashion where they're going to hit the spine of their knife that hard. Now, a light tap, I do agree, is a nice way to see how good the life, but that's not a spine whack. a light tap, just a quick tap on a lighter surface, softer surface. I typically use this mat here. That is not how you're going to use your knife, nor is the test that they used to do with the shark lock, as much as I like the shark lock and the triad lock. Hanging weight. You're not going to hang weight off of it. Like no one does that. But I don't want to do it with that one. We'll do it with this one. Just taking this knife, just doing a light tap on a surface like this rubberized mat that I've got here, that's going to tell you if that lock is going to slip. A better test is just simply to take this part of the knife in one hand, this part of the knife in the other hand, and push against the blade and see if you feel any change in that lock. If you feel a flex, then you reach out to that company and see if they're like, hey, there's something wrong with this lock, because that lock will fail. Jared found out. Yeah, it's not the way you would use that knife. So at any rate, guys, please drop a like. I'm going to get off here. I'm going to get something set up to eat. And I'm going to get these microphone and receiver on charge, because I forgot to charge them last night, so they're almost dead. I just looked down and I'm like, wow, that thing is that thing doesn't have near the battery strength that it did. I have to admit, the ram lock is one of the better ones that's out there. It's an Axis style lock that really works well. It's ambidextrous. It's really good. I don't know how I feel about some of the locks for hard use. I think that one would work really well. I know a frame lock will work really well. Things like that. So, guys, I'm going to see you next time. I love y'all. Take it easy. I'll see you on the next Night Shift Live. Well, it's not. I'm not working. So, later.